What you see and also what you're going to hear is the quilt in its visual version and also in its acoustic version.
How to even begin to explain. So I think probably the most important thing to say is the bottom 3 rows of the quilt are femicide banners. And this is how the project began, with the femicide demonstrations that we do regularly here in Graz. And for every femicide that takes place here in Austria, we make a bedsheet banner with the date, the place, a slogan, often who it was that murdered her and her age. And then also we put which number femicide it's been this year. Sadly, in 2024, which is the femicide banners that we have here, there were 27 femicides in Austria. So 27 women murdered because of their gender, the majority of them by their partner or ex-partner. We'd often been stitching the femicide banners together at the end of the year to show that these are not isolated cases, that this is a pattern of violence. And with this project, what I wanted to do was also show a pattern of resistance. So that then led on to the practice of making demand banners. A lot of these banners are made in workshops, which I do with different groups in the community. And it's been really exciting to have those conversations with so many different groups of people. I don't have any favorites, but just to give some examples, there's one that says share knowledge across generations and geographies, genealogy, which was made with a group of people in an exhibition at Rotor Gallery, which was mostly with Kurdish artists. And this was looking at the connections between ecocide and femicide and how to resist both at the same time. There's also a really nice one that says Isolation bekämpfen, which has pictures of these different women sat on plastic chairs outside a house all together, which I really, really like. There's another one, for example, that says Platz nehmen Raum geben, that was made with Bund Demokratischer Frauen. We've got some on the other side that were made with KJO and the Junge Linke, some communist youth groups here in Graz. Yeah, it's been amazing to get to work with so many different community groups and hear their ideas about what needs to change to stop femicide from happening.
And that's what we see in the background. And I liked it very much, that part of all the work that you've been doing and we've been doing, which is also bringing people together and creating an atmosphere and a possibility to actually exchange about all that which is related to femicide, yeah, because it's not, let's say, only the murder itself that happens on a certain moment, but it's a whole set of societal givens or societal facts that we actually really want to go against and that we're opposing. And what I find so beautiful in that setting, how you created it, is that the demands and also the wishes and the expressions of resistance, they are in a certain way in the core because they are also visible from the outside. So they are really, really, really strong. And at the same time, of course, all the murders, all the femicides are here, they are present. And as you said, they're interconnected. And I think that's a super important thing to do.
And I think it was also really important for me to resist this idea, the gendered power relation that you see when you're confronted with the femicide banners is not natural. And I think this is one of the biggest risks of making femicide and gender-based violence visible in the public space, is that you can end up reinforcing the gendered power dynamics that lie behind it in the first place. So this idea that men are really powerful and violent and women are always victims of that violence. Of course this exists, but it's not natural. And I think by creating these demands that really focus on the societal and the cultural and political reasons why the violence happens, I hope to really be able to fight back against this naturalization.
Don't protect your daughters! Educate your sons! Konzept vom Familienoberhaupt enthaupten! Isolation bekämpfen!
That maybe is also a nice bridge to the sound quilt. So you're gonna hear this multitude of voices, and that was actually the idea to bring it in. So it's voices, it's recordings from demonstrations, it's also demonstrations where we all together shout our demands, but then it's also people who speak at the demonstrations and bring in certain information, like specific things that we also need to know about and share. But then it's also recordings of the demands that many of us together did, and that was also like a strengthening and really, really beautiful and important moment. Then there's the one voice, it's one text, it's the ritual that was written by Nayari Castillo-Ruz. That's part of the whole spatial situation that is strengthening also the fact that there's many, many different we's that we are part of, and that there's this need for mourning and acknowledging that this is really hurting and sad and awful and horrible, but then also finding strength in finding together and strengthening each other.
To alleviate patriarchy. How to go out of the rage, of the unbearable fact that these assassinations are happening every minute of every day.
Sounds of like domestic devices. Yeah, you'll hear a coffee machine, you'll hear a washing machine, like sounds that are very daily life. And as we know, the home is not the safe place. So I find that's a very important sound layer to it all. But what it does also in the space is that it's referring to all these different situations that we find formulated in the demands, and to strengthen the fact that we won't be silenced.
There's like a huge racist history to this idea of protecting women. And we've very recently had Donald Trump say, I'm going to do it whether the women like it or not. I'm going to protect them. I'm going to protect them from the migrants coming in. And I think this statement is such a perfect example of how this sexism and racism like works hand in hand. And these white men position themselves as protectors of women when in fact it is all men that are capable of this kind of violence. And here in Austria, when we bring the topic of femicide into public space, the majority of people that come up to us either ask us or say it's the migrants, like femicide and gender-based violence, this is to do with migrants. And firstly, this is simply not the case. You're much more likely to be murdered by an Austrian here in Austria. But also it is, and you know, it's terrible for those men and for migrants in general, but it's also really rubbish for all women because it's a distraction. It's not dealing with the real reasons behind this kind of violence.
And also I think what sometimes is the case in Austria, that we delegate everything to the state or everything to some sort of institution. And by that then saying like, okay, I've done everything that I need to do. That is not the case. So what we need to, again, that has to do with another type of shift, is to understand that it's the responsibility of all of us to create a society in which all of us live.
Yeah, exactly. We need to change the culture,
exactly.
and the ideas about gender that stand behind all of this kind of violence. So yeah, to borrow a phrase from UK organisation Level Up, we protect us.